You're doing email marketing manually in 2026 and it's eating up your entire weekend. I automated mine and cut out roughly 12 hours of busy work on the weekends. By the end of this video, you're going to see how I set up my own system so that all my emails are written, queued up, and sent without me being involved, which allows me to spend more time with my wife and kids on the weekend. Now, unlike other videos where people show you what they did and then ask you to go out and figure it out yourself, I'm going to show you exactly how you can replicate what I'm doing right now. So I'm going to walk you through this step by step. When it comes to email marketing, there's pretty much 4 steps that we have to take every single time, and I'm going to show you what that looks like. First, we have to decide what to mail. That is, are we going to send an affiliate promotion? Are we going to be sending a value email, a quiz, anything like that? Then we write the emails, and then we queue up the emails in our autoresponder. And then finally, we check and look back at what worked and what didn't work. And based on that, of course, we go back and change some things over here as well. Now, I'm going to set up a system that's going to do this entire thing without me being involved. The only thing I need to do is this part. When I decide what to mail, I decide exactly what we're going to send. Then the AI takes care of the entire operation without me being involved. And again, the important point is this feedback loop, because a single operation without a feedback loop is useless. And what we're trying to do is understand what works, what doesn't work, and that way optimize our process so our results compound. So the very first thing you need to decide is what to mail. Now, of course, this is a subjective decision and I'm going to leave that to you. But typically on the weekends, depending on how my schedule looks, I either send a value email, maybe a link to my YouTube video, maybe a quiz, or quite often I send out promotional emails. So the very first thing is for you to decide what is it that you are going to mail. Second part of the process is actually writing the mail. Now, of course, before AI became very commonplace, we used to do all this by hand, but thankfully now we can do all of this using AI. So let's go ahead and build this out right now. Now, before we actually start writing the emails or instructing AI how to do so, we need to establish some ground rules, which would be very useful when we start constructing this set of agents. The first ground rule is, of course, copywriting skills. Now, AI by itself can do copywriting, but it can never write it in a way that you do. It can never write it in a format that suits your audience or suits the industry that you're in. So it's very important to feed information into AI so it's able to create the kind of emails that you actually want. So we're going to do that as a first step. The second step, and this is important as well, is we're going to teach AI what words to avoid. Now, I don't want to go too much into email deliverability in this video, but I can tell you that it is very, very crucial that you avoid certain spammy words, because if your emails land in spam or they don't land in the primary inbox in Gmail, your open rates, your clicks are going to decline over a period of time, and you don't want that. So what we're going to do is we're going to feed data into AI so it's able to then create the skills required to write those emails and then make sure those emails are actually spam free. So let's go ahead and build out this folder, and I'm going to, of course, work inside of Claude. So we now have 2 very simple folders here: email samples, which is currently empty, and spam words, which is currently empty as well. Let's go fill this up. And of course, instead of manually creating these files, I'm going to let Claude do the heavy lifting for me. So let's go ahead and choose our folder here. So we created one called Weekend Emails, and we're going to choose this folder, and then we're going to instruct Claude to save these spammy keywords as keywords to avoid in the spam words file. So here's a very simple message instructing Claude to basically save these as a markup file inside of our folder. And once this is done, I'm going to show you what this looks like. And again, I'm trying to do this without actually creating any files myself. And I'm going to show you how crucial this entire process is. So there we go. As you can see now, the spam words is actually full with this list. So this entire list is now ready. And honestly, it looks pretty good to me. Let's go back to Claude, and then we're going to look at the next steps. So one neat trick with Claude is to not use the same chat window all the time. So I'm going to next open a new chat window, but I'm going to stay in this particular folder. So I'm going to choose this one. Next, I'm going to give it some emails to emulate. Now, here's a very, very important thing. There's 2 different ways of doing it. I can, as I just did before, copy and paste emails into it. Alternatively, I can ask it to hook into my autoresponder, which is Mailvio, and automatically grab the emails from there. Grab the best performing emails from there. So a simple ask. Next, what it's asking me to do is use my Mailvio API key. So I'm going to open up that environment file on my folder, and I'm going to give my API key for this one. So this process is still ongoing, and as you can see, it's taken about 6 minutes so far, but I haven't had to do anything. It's just processing all the information by itself. First, it started by figuring out where the API docs are. I didn't link to any of those. It found them, it tested them, and now that it's tested them, it's starting to gather that information, as you can see. So check this out. Claude has been running this all the time, and it's able to extract all my 6,000 campaigns from over a few years. And it's going to now, as I've asked it, to filter campaigns only with 5,000 contacts and then figure out which ones are the best ones. So it's going through everything and it's figured out top 20 campaigns, and then these campaigns as well, which, to be fair, I don't want to go as far back as 2022 to look at what worked, what didn't work. So there's a couple of things I'm going to do while I have this data, because this is quite fantastic. So let's go ahead and ask Claude a couple of very specific things. So there you go. Can you actually create an Excel sheet of all the campaigns inside this folder so we can look at it in the future? And more importantly, then for the top 20 campaigns, let's only focus on the ones from 2025 and 26, because of course I don't want to go far back too much, because email marketing has changed a lot since 2024. And to be fair, even in 2025. So we're only going to look at campaigns in 2025 and 2026 and see what's actually working right now. And again, this is all fact finding, and you really only need to do it once, or if at all, every 6 months. Because once we have this, the next step is we're going to reverse engineer how these emails have been written, what's working for them, what isn't working for them. And then we're going to ask Claude to basically turn this into a reusable skill set with exactly what to do for subject lines as well as the content. And that way, Claude knows exactly what to create based on what works for us. So there we go. Now we have some data. And again, you can look at all these emails are from 2025, 2026, arranged based on click-through rate. So it's got these things down. So here's what I'm going to ask it to do next. Okay, could you please save these 20 emails with subject line in the email samples folder so they're always accessible in the future? Please include headline, the subject line, and the email content itself as well. Then let's prepare a skills file and call this promotional email skill that basically dictates exactly how these emails should be written. We should be able to use this skills file in the future to write any kind of promotional email related to our campaigns. So then, could you please save these 20 emails in the email sample folder so they're always accessible in the future? Please include headline, the subject line, and the email content itself as well. As you can see, I don't correct myself as I make mistakes. Claude's able to do that. Then let's prepare a skills file and call this promotional email skill that basically dictates exactly how these emails should be written. We should be able to use this skills file in the future to write any kind of promotional email related to our campaign. So I want to take you back to this. What we have essentially done so far is we have figured out the copywriting skills. We have reverse engineered. We've fed in about 20 different pieces of information into this, actually a lot more, about 6,000, and found the best 20 emails. And then we fed back into this to create what we're calling a copywriting skills file. Remember, we've already got our spam words as well, and we can test this just to see how it works so that we know that the emails that it creates are actually good. But these two skills files are enough. And now that it has access to Mailvio, it can queue those emails as well. So next up, what we're going to do once the skills files are done, we're going to test them that the emails it creates are actually good. And then we are going to go ahead and queue the emails. By the way, quick note, we do a lot of this cool stuff inside our school community called AI Revenue Engine. The link for that is below this video. Make sure you join that, because I will be sharing a lot of this behind the scenes, as well as the prompts, the skills files that we get with our customers inside the community as well. So make sure you join that right now. But let's get back into this. And there we go. This is quite interesting. So it's taken the 20 emails, it's saved them in the folder, and it's doing all the analysis, figuring out basically what works, what doesn't work. And this is going to be fantastic, because now I don't have to do the grunt work of actually writing the emails myself once the skills file is created. So I'm just waiting for that. But again, it's going to instruct Claude every single time how to write those emails that actually work. All right, so all this took about 10 minutes, and our skills file is ready. So all the 20 emails are saved. The promo skill is updated with all these different things, and we have hard rules as well that I wanted to put them in there as well. So this is good. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and copy the skills name, or we can use it later, but I'm going to try out creating a new email just to see what it looks like. But remember, we also want to avoid the spam words. So let's try this out right now to see how this goes. So here we go. Now I'm just testing this to make sure the email works. And while I was doing this, I realized something, and that is quite important. We have an email writer that's going to write the emails. Then we have a way for it to check the spam words, and it's going to check that. what happens if it makes a mistake? So we probably want to add in a judge skill as well. That's going to make sure the email is actually spam free. And if it is not, it's going to go back and ask the writer to do it again and make sure it doesn't have those spammy words in it. But anyway, let's look at what comes out of this. And once we have that proven, we're going to start figuring out how to then schedule it inside of Mailvio at a specific date, at a specific time, to specific lists as well. Okay, so our email in written, let's look at what this looks like. Subject, we built this in 30 minutes. Something happened last week, blah, blah, blah. Okay, this is pretty good. Here's what I'm going to do next. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to test this out inside of the spam tester, make sure there's no spammy words in it. So let's look at this. So unfortunately, we do have a lot of instances of spammy words, which is a problem. All that means is we actually need to create a judge skill that tests the emails to make sure they don't have spam issues in them, and that way it's able to work on them. So let's go back to Claude and make those adjustments. So now we're asking Claude to build the exact setup that I was talking about earlier, which is the email writer writes the email, then the judge checks it against the spam keywords. And if there are any, then it goes back and asks the email writer to fix its work, because we're building this orchestration of agents where we don't want to do a lot of work and just have these agents interact with each other and do the work for us. And again, this is where your thinking needs to move up from using AI just as a writer to something that continues to actually improve based on the goals that it needs to hit. And until it hits those goals, it keeps on improving. All right, so all this is done. The spam word skill is updated. The judge skill now exists, and so does my Neil promo copy skill. So we're going to try this one more time, because clearly last time it didn't quite do what I wanted it to do. So let's try this out. So I'm going to take this one and I'm going to run it again. So let's run this as a new session, and I'm going to use the weekend emails. And I'm going to remove this instruction as well and see what it comes out with. And again, our goal is to get an email that is pretty much spam free. Like, we want it to be 100% spam free, and only then we have checked that box and we can move on to actually adding this to Mailvio. So we have an email and we have an issue, and I'm going to explain why. So it actually created this email. As you can see, this was the initial draft, then it checked everything and it marked everything as clean, and it said everything is fine as it should be, and here's your final email. But, and this is a big one, when I put this email here, it still pointed out certain issues. So things like $, or if I go further down, there's one time, now, click, price only. Now, this was not in my initial spam keyword list. Unfortunately, this is going to happen. So this is where we have to rework the spam skills file to make sure to understand what words to avoid. So let's go back and fix this inside of Claude Code, so it also updates the spam file for the future. So a straightforward ask in this case, that this still has some spammy words that basically were skipped, and the words are these, and also $sign is unacceptable, so change that, and make sure you update the spam skills file, and make sure then you also redo this email so that now it's clean and ready to use. And now this email is ready, which brings us to the next step, which is we want to queue up the emails. Remember, they are written, but we have a very specific way in we actually send out emails. So if I go to Mailvio campaigns, you can see these campaigns. We choose all these different lists, for example, and we usually schedule emails at a specific date, at a specific time. So now I want you to take this email and I want you to go ahead and add it to my Mailvio account as a saved template so I can use it in the future. Then also tell me if you're able to actually schedule a campaign using this, and if so, what information would you need from? So we continue ahead, and in this case, I'm actually asking Claude to go ahead and schedule this mail for me. And if it's able to do that, that's fantastic. But at the very least, it should be able to save it as a campaign. And this is something I want to tell you. When you are doing automations in your business, you may not be able to get you exactly where you're going with the first command. So it's okay to work with Claude. It's okay to ask questions and dive in deeper to see how far you can push it, which is exactly what we are doing right now. So please log into Mailvio in the browser and then let me know when you're in, and I'll take it from there. Navigate to the template section and save the email for you, which is fine, but I don't want to do that. Remember, our use case here is that it should fire automatically when we want. So I'm going to push back on this, and I'm going to say this. No, instead, I want you to use the Mailvio API that is in the environment file in the project folder to actually schedule the email. So we're going to ask it to use the Mailvio API instead of me using the browser, because me using the browser means I have to be there sitting all the time. And to be fair, I don't want to do that. So before it schedules, it needs to check what lists exist in my account. So it's again getting those lists named from my account. I'm going to let it do that. I'm going to work with it so that instead of me copy and pasting, hopefully it's able to pick up that information by itself. All right, so here is Claude doing all the work for me. So Claude is telling me, look, I've got all these OmniMint lists. It thinks I only need to send it to OmniMint, which is not the case. So I'm going to push back and say, I want you to get all the lists from this account we're going to basically select all of them when we are doing our mailing. And then I'm going to also give it date and time in just a little bit. But let's go back and look at what it's actually done in terms of saving a template. And here we go. As you can see, this email is now in place, and I'm just going to look at it as well. So let's go ahead and edit it, and you can see this is done in a very simple format. This is not what I want. So it's good that we were able to catch it, and we're going to fix that because I want Claude to use a very, very specific layout or a template that we use, which is, for example, this one. This is the one that works well for our use case. So this is what I want Claude to use. So I'm going to go back and ask Claude to fix that for me. All right, so this is pretty magical. So with a bit of extra instructions, it's able to create this entire email. And honestly, this is fantastic. This is exactly what I want. This is exactly what I need. And as you can see, Claude's able to build this entire thing out. And all I had to do was tell it which template to use, and it's able to use that. So again, you just have to talk with it to get the things that you want. For example, one of the things I would like to do is for ask it to embed this. Another thing I would ask for it is to change the pixel size to 16. So all these minor things are doable. So it's able to do all of that, and it's able to save all this as a template, which is what it has done. But we want to take it one step further. Of course, you want to ask it to schedule it. So let's test this out as well. Okay, I want you to now schedule it to all 200 lists on the 17th of April, 2026 at 5 p.m. Helsinki time. And I'm going to show you what that looks like once it schedules it. And by the way, just so you know, once it does schedule it, the next step is pretty much ready, which is for us to go ahead and build it some kind of feedback loop and reporting as well. So again, so far, once it's able to queue the emails, we're just going to go ahead and build out analytics so that every weekend when emails go out, I don't have to log in and check how it's all doing. It's able to send me a message or an email, or I can simply log in somewhere and look at exactly how the performance is. We're going to build that in as well. So there you go. I'm very, very happy. And as you can see, this email is scheduled for 10 a.m. to all the lists as I requested. I'm just going to go in and check that everything is fine. So let's click through and make sure it is actually okay. And again, then finally, we're going to build in some analytics to make sure it does actually work as expected. And then we're going to go ahead and finalize this. So all I have to do every single time, not just on the weekends, but every single day, just give it some information, and it's able to schedule out emails all the time. So let's go ahead and go next. And there you go. The email is in fact in place and it works. Everything is good. If I preview and test it, I can see what this looks like. Does the link work? Yes, it does. So we are in a pretty good place. Now, the one final thing I need to do is, as I mentioned, build in the feedback loop so that it's able to improve as it goes along. So what we're doing now quite cleverly. So what we're doing now is we're working out benchmarks. Basically, before we decide what is good and what is not, of course, remember we have the top 20 emails. Depending on the stage of the sequence that the email is at, we are asking Claude to figure out what are the right benchmarks, and then it will be able to basically consider the emails based on that. So let's look at this. So it's looking at this campaign sent 48 hours later, a feedback loop runs where you figure out the benchmarks. So the benchmark should be like this: open rates, for example, this is what we're aiming at. Click-through rate, this is what we're aiming at. And not sure what CTOR is, but then the unsub rate is this one. And the feedback loop is like this. And the learning loop, each campaign at send time creates a campaign metadata JSON entry recording subject pattern, techniques used, product type, etc. At feedback time, this gets matched with the performance data and stored. And then 2 questions before I build: do you want this to work via WhatsApp? And if so, it can send me details via that, or it could be Twilio or something else. Email address should fine as well. But again, it could actually trigger an email via Mailvio to me, which is fantastic because we can use our platform to get those emails as well. So again, you can see this is what the data looks like, which is fantastic. And that's what we want. And again, it says my intention is right, which is depending on the kind of email that I'm sending or when I'm sending it, the open rates and click-through rates actually differ. So this is very, very important as well to keep that in mind. And again, it's saying that we're going to build the benchmarks according. So I've given it some final instructions, but as you can pretty much see, we have done what we set out to do, which is we now have a way to essentially go out there, decide what to mail, communicate with Claude about it. Claude writes the emails, cleans them up as well, and automatically queues them up based on our requests. And then it's able to send me updates via WhatsApp. And then it's also able to create detailed reports of it, which it uses to go back and update the skills file. So once it has those reports, it can update the skills file automatically and decide what worked, what didn't work. And I can again operate all of this via my mobile phone. So forget even just trying to do weekends. Now we can do this every single day. But look, getting your weekends back from just doing email marketing is a big win, and I can feel this right away. What I didn't realize was how much work there was in my business that didn't need a person working at it all the time. So in this next video, I break down a single AI system that replaced 3 people in my business so you can see how to do the same.